friends, welcome to the 15th part of the series on the Battle of Raichur. I had to start from scratch as I accidentally deleted all the data for my YouTube videos. So that's a lesson to be less careless in the future. So let's get cracking. So a quick recap of the situation, before I took my long break. So sometime in May 1520 to 1522, remember the date is not fixed, Ismail Adil Shah arrived with his army in the Raichur doab. And what he expected was Krishnadevaraya to take the bait and attempt the dangerous river crossing. But Krishnadevaraya disappointed Adil Shah, and Adil Shah finally lost his patience and he crossed the river on 16th to 17th May. So this was the Krishna river, which you can see in the image. Now what Adil Shah did was he strengthened this camp by digging large trenches around it, and he arranged his cavalry and infantry in battle position. Now the key pivot of his battle strategy was his artillery, which had over 900 small and large cannons. So the artillery was positioned behind the front line of the trenches. So this was absolutely the first line of defense. Okay, so that's enough with the flashback, and now we can move on to the next part. Krishnadevaraya divided his army into 7 divisions under the big Nayakas, who were the military governors of different regions of the Vijayanagara Empire. And this included his father-in-law Kumar Viraya, who positioned his division barely 5 kilometers from the Adil Shah's front line. And the attack was planned to start around 6 a.m. on 20th May. Now Nunes has described the tremendous noise and din of the army as it went into battle. So I'm quoting from the translation by Robert Sewell. It seemed as if the sky should fall to the earth because of the noise. And if you asked anything, you could not hear yourself speak, and you had to ask by signs. This was because of the noise of the drums, the trumpets, and all the musical instruments used to signal the divisions of the army. But by the time the leading 2 divisions moved to attack, it was already 9 a.m. And Kumar Viraya launched a vigorous attack on the Bijapur army, and he forced it back into the defensive trenches. So they ran back to the trenches. And what happened was Adil Shah saw his strategy, which was to lure the entire Vijayanagara army into the gun sights of his artillery and basically blow them away. If Krishnadevaraya had taken the bait and thrown his whole army into the attack, it is certain that the devastating artillery barrage would have blown apart a large part of his army and possibly killed Krishnadevaraya himself. So what Adil Shah did now at this stage with Muslim army on the run, so Adil Shah brought his Brahmastra into action. Okay, and the entire Bijapur artillery opened simultaneous fire into the densely packed masses of Vijayanagara infantry, cavalry and elephants. So it was chaos. And if you remember, the presentation I had earlier in this series on how artillery used to be in that age, it used to be usually, either iron balls, stone balls, or what was known as grape shot. So coins or a lot of metal pieces, shrapnel, filled into the cannon. And once that artillery fired, the effect was tremendous, especially of the grape shot. And they would scatter and maim and kill, especially if, people were very close together. And this thunderous barrage wreaked havoc in the Vijayanagara army, and the divisions began to fall back. And at this moment, the Bijapuri cavalry and infantry emerged from behind the cannons and began slaughtering the retreating Vijayanagara forces. So, but was this the end of the battle? Not yet, my friends. So the main action is yet to come. When all seemed lost, the great Krishnadevaraya thundered forward with his 5 divisions. Now, like the Soviet Union during World War II, he gave strict orders to cut down any deserters and cowards who were fleeing the battlefield. So the situation suddenly reversed. The hunted now became the hunters. And with the ferocity, they turned on their Bijapuri pursuers and swept them aside like a tsunami. And Nunes describes this when he says, the confusion was so great amongst the Moors. So the Portuguese used to call the Muslims as Moors. And such havoc was wrought in the ranks that they did not even try to defend the camp they had made so strong and enclosed so well. But like lost men, they leaped into the river to save themselves. Then after them came large number of king's troops and elephants. for they seized men with their trunks and tore them into small pieces, while those who rode in the castles, the howdahs, killed countless numbers with their arrows. So the camp was in complete confusion, and the Bijapur camp had civilians and women, many who were drowned, trying to flee across the Krishna. So I've just depicted this in the graphics. So you can see the movement of the Bijapuri cavalry and infantry as they run across the river, and the main camp flees across the river as well. So Adil Shah and his commanders didn't present any picture of bravery. They pretty much ran across the river as well. The only exception was a commander called Salabat Khan, and he gathered 500 Portuguese mercenaries and he cut his way to Krishnadevaraya. But his motley band was annihilated and he was taken prisoner. So Adil Shah, with the bodyguard of 400 cavalrymen, was bundled away from the battlefield by the cunning Asad Khan. So we'll learn more about Asad Khan in the last part, which I have called the aftermath. So friends, this is it for this time. In the next part will be the last part, and thank you for watching. If you like, please do remember to share, subscribe and like the video as well, and I will see you next time. Hari Om.